Welcome to Conversations Beyond Borders. I'm Laura, a mindset coach and your guide through the fascinating, sometimes challenging, but always transformative world of midlife. This podcast is for women just like you, women who are growing, questioning what's next, redefining their identities, and stepping into a new chapter with courage and curiosity.
And I'm Susan. Whether it's an empty nest, a career shift, or just that feeling of what now, midlife brings many questions, but it also offers incredible opportunities for growth and discovery. We're here to explore it with real stories, expert insights, and honest conversations about what it truly means to navigate this time of life.
In each episode, we'll explore a midlife challenge, whether it's making time for ourselves, stepping into new passions, or letting go of past expectations. We're tackling it all.
And the best part, you're not alone in this. You'll hear from women on the same journey, and we'll uncover the lessons, the laughter, and the aha moments that come with embracing midlife as a fresh beginning.
So whether you're feeling stuck or inspired, unsure, or ready to leap on in, Conversations Beyond Borders is here for you. This is a safe space to dream bigger, dig deeper, and connect with women who are also ready to live boldly beyond the borders of what they once believed possible.
Take a deep breath, find a quiet moment for yourself, and tune in as we navigate midlife together, sharing honest and meaningful conversations. Welcome back to Conversations Beyond Borders. Today's episode is bittersweet, Laura. It's our final one of the season, and it's called, drumroll please, Your Evolution.
I have to say, this makes me a little emotional. The final episode of season 1, it feels a little bit surreal to look back on this journey of creating this podcast and realize we're actually wrapping up our first season. Together, we have walked through some powerful stages, naming the pain, facing the fear, reclaiming identity, and building resilience. That's no small thing. It's time to honor how far we've come and lean into what's next with open hearts and a bold curiosity.
Yes, this final stage, stage 5, is where we pause to reflect, honor how far we've come, and plant the seeds for what's still ahead. And let's be honest, evolution doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet and personal, a shift in how you speak to yourself or show up in your everyday life.
Exactly, and that's what we're here to explore today. We'll take a moment to reflect on this journey and all its messy and magical parts, followed by what it looks like to step into the next phase of growth, one that's authentic, intentional, and filled with purpose.
So whether you've been with us from episode 1 or you're just tuning in now, we want you to feel seen. This work you've done, it's real, it's powerful, and it deserves to be acknowledged.
So take a breath. This isn't just the end of a podcast season, it's the beginning of something new. So let's get into it. Let's begin with one of the most grounding emotions, gratitude. Gratitude for the version of you who stayed committed to this journey even when it felt hard or uncomfortable. The part of you that deeply desired something more, that knew there had to be more authentic path forward. It took courage to keep moving, to remain committed to creating a next chapter that truly reflects who you are.
Yes, that woman may be unsure, maybe tired, perhaps quietly hopeful, deserves to be celebrated. She may not have a map, but she took the first step anyway. You showed up week after week, breath after breath, and even when the episodes stirred up hard truths, our unexpected emotions, you stayed with it.
And that commitment deserves to be recognized because it's easy to overlook our own perseverance, especially when we believe it only counts if we have to overcome some major life challenge. But in reality, the quiet strength of showing up day after day is one of the most powerful expressions of resilience.
Absolutely. Gratitude in this moment isn't about the usual checklists. It's about acknowledging the soul level strength it takes to turn inward, to explore the parts of yourself you've long ignored or doubted. And that gratitude, it's not just a feeling. It's a recognition, a bow to the woman who began this journey, not knowing what would unfold, but daring to start anyway.
Even though this journey looks different for each and every one of us, it's not meant to be walked alone. So now at the end of this season, we want to say we see you, we honor you, and are deeply grateful you chose to walk this path with us.
If you haven't already, pause and acknowledge yourself. To the woman who's chose something more, even when it wasn't easy. She didn't wait for certainty. She moved forward when something within her said, "It's my time."
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the reminder of how important it is to pause and recognize our own efforts. It's an important step towards true self-acceptance, the kind that doesn't ask us to be more or to do more, but gently reminds us that we're already enough.
Yes, real self-acceptance doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it sneaks in like a gentle exhale. It's that moment when you stop critiquing every part of yourself and instead say, "I did the best I could with what I knew and who I was at the time." And that was enough.
Yes, it was. And it can be incredibly humbling because when we release the pressure to be everything and everyone, we create space for honesty, honesty with ourselves about our limits, our needs, and our values. And when we start living in that truth, we feel more aligned and more grounded.
Yes, and that kind of honesty softens something in us. It opens the door to self-acceptance, but not in some big dramatic moment. It's quieter than that. It shows up in the in-between spaces, like catching yourself mid-criticism and offering compassion instead, or standing in front of the mirror and thinking, "I know her. I've seen every version of her, and she's still here, still showing up." That's the real work, and it's powerful.
Yes, it is. It's a shift from editing yourself to simply being yourself. And that kind of acceptance is powerful. It will release any shame you might be carrying, and it will quiet that inner critic that has been trying to keep you small.
Because here's the truth. Accepting yourself doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop punishing yourself as you grow. It means you trust that who you are today is worthy, but deeply capable of holding all you're becoming.
And don't worry if the idea of self acceptance still feels a little uncomfortable. You don't have to fully feel it to begin practicing it. Sometimes it starts with a gentle reminder: I can show up as I am, not who I think I should be.
Yeah, you have nothing to prove to deserve your own care and compassion. Self-acceptance isn't about getting it all right. It's about letting yourself be real without apology. I remember one moment in my journey when I realized I wasn't chasing perfection anymore. I was learning to belong to myself. That realization cracked something open in me. As a stay-at-home mom, I remember thinking that I might be more accepted and, more importantly, valued if I were a super mom. It was partly what I felt society said or other women said about me. But as I matured well into my 40s, I realized I was shaming myself. Being at home and raising my children was hard. And although I have some nostalgia about becoming a psychologist, I feel blessed to have been a stay-at-home mom.
Susan, thank you so much for sharing that. When self acceptance finally clicks, don't be surprised if you feel a bit in awe of yourself. Not because everything's perfect, but because you realize how much you've grown. You start to see yourself in a new light with a little more kindness and a lot more compassion.
It's not a word we use much when talking about ourselves. We save it for sunsets or mountaintops. But what if we allowed ourselves to feel awe for the strength it took to stay, keep growing, and reimagine who we could be?
When you take a moment to give yourself credit for your progress, it's natural to feel a sense of awe, not because everything has to be easy or perfect, but because you realize how much you've grown. It's in that recognition that you start to honor your own resilience and the quiet strength it took to get you here.
Or even if you carved out time to listen to this podcast, reflect, or journal, that's not small. That's sacred, and it deserves a moment of reverence.
Exactly. Moments like these, where we pause and acknowledge our efforts, are often where we first feel that sense of awe. It's a reminder that we're capable of more than we realize, and even the smallest steps are worth recognizing. This is also when we begin to tap into compassion. It's about looking at ourselves with the same kindness we extend to others, especially when we realize how far we've come.
Yeah, compassion toward yourself is often the hardest to learn. It's easier to extend to others. But what would it feel like to offer the same tenderness to the woman you used to be? The one who was overwhelmed, scared, or simply doing the best she could with the resources she had.
That's right. She doesn't need to be criticized. She needs understanding and recognition for how far she's come. Maybe today you tell her, I get why you handled things the way you did. I see how hard you worked to get through it, because shame keeps us stuck. But compassion helps us move forward.
Yes, when I finally learned to talk to myself with compassion, it didn't mean I stopped holding myself accountable. It just meant I stopped being cruel. I began to root for myself instead of against myself. And that shift, that changed everything.
Oh, Susan, I'm sure it did. And in that shift, allowing ourselves compassion, we create space for closure. This is an important part of the process because closure is key to letting go of the weight we've been carrying, whether it's guilt, regret, or self doubt.
Oh, I agree, Laura.
It acknowledges what we've been through and gives us permission to move forward with peace and clarity.
Yeah, closure doesn't always come with a ceremony. Sometimes it's just the decision to stop picking at old wounds. It's the gentle saying, this part of my story shaped me, but it no longer defines me.
It's releasing the version of yourself that has survived through uncertainty, overwhelm, or simply doing the best she could with what she had.
And that release creates space for pride, real pride, not ego, not performance, but that deep inner acknowledgement. I did something hard. I stayed, I grew, I became more myself.
And women often downplay their strengths. We dismiss it as just doing what needed to be done. But doing what needs to be done requires that we get up and show up, even when we don't feel like it. And that is strength. And today we invite you to name it, claim it, and be proud of it.
It's releasing the version of yourself that was surviving and letting her rest, letting her be a chapter, not the whole book.
Exactly. And that moment when you finally let go, it creates space for something we don't talk about often enough: pride. Not the kind of pride that needs to prove anything, but the kind that feels steady. The kind of pride that says, I did something hard. I didn't check out. I showed up. I stayed with it, even when it was messy.
Yes, and that kind of pride, it's sacred. It's not loud or boastful. It's the kind that lives in your bones. It says, I am not who I was when I began this journey, and I don't need to apologize for the woman I've become.
Pride is often buried under layers of self doubt or cultural messages that keep us playing small. Messages that tell us to be humble, invisible, and downplay our growth. But today, we're flipping that script. You deserve to feel proud of how far you've come. Not just quietly acknowledge it, but celebrate it. After all, you were allowed to take up space in your own story.
Yeah, because pride is fuel. It doesn't just acknowledge the work you've done. It energizes what comes next. When you feel proud, you begin to see yourself as the architect of your own life, not just a bystander. It's like standing in front of a mosaic you've been piecing together for months and finally stepping back to say, this is mine. I made this and it's beautiful, even with all its cracks.
It's the inner shift from I hope I'm enough to I know I'm enough. Pride tells us we can trust ourselves with the next step, even if we don't know exactly where it's going to lead us.
Yes, so today, If a part of you has hesitated to claim your growth, let this be the invitation. You don't need a trophy. You don't need validation. You just need a moment. I want to take a moment to say I am proud of how I've shown up for myself, and I'm not done yet.
We have created a resource for our Conversations Beyond Borders community. It is designed for you to reflect on your growth throughout the podcast's first season. Whether you've been with us since the first episode or joined along the way, this guide is here to help you pause, reflect, and take in just how far you've come.
Yes, inside our private community, growth looks different for everyone, but it's always worth honoring. This guide gives you space to notice your patterns, celebrate your shifts, and connect the dots across the season. Let it be messy, meaningful, and entirely your own. Welcome back. You're not alone if you felt the quiet pull of something new. Hope doesn't always arrive with fanfare. It often slips in softly, in the pause after a hard choice, or the exhale that follows letting go. It's not about certainty or control. It's about the quiet courage to believe. Something meaningful is still ahead, even if you don't yet know what it looks like. In segment 2, we'll lean into that space where hope begins to take root and where trusting the process becomes the next brave step forward.
I've found that hope, paired with faith, have been one of the most powerful companions in my own journey. Not faith that everything's going to be perfect, but faith that I'm being guided, even when the path was unclear. It's my belief that I'm not walking alone, that there's something greater at work. It has helped me stay open, even in the waiting.
It's that quiet voice within that whisper. There's more ahead, and I'm open to it. Not because everything is clear, but because you've chosen to stay open to life, to possibility, and to your own growth.
Exactly. And when we stay open like that, we might find excitement starts to grow.
Sometimes it's as subtle as a sudden interest in a book you might not have picked up before, or a daydream that keeps tugging at your attention. It's the emotional equivalent of the season shifting from winter to spring. I like to think of it as a refreshing breath of fresh air, but spring can come with unexpected changes too.
It really can. If we think of the change we go through as how we grow and evolve, like the seasons, just like spring, summer, fall, and winter, each bring their own rhythm and purpose. So do the seasons within us. Each one carries its own kind of growth and transformation. Spring is a season of rebirth, when new ideas begin to stir and those first sparks of excitement return. And it's okay if that excitement feels unfamiliar or even a little unsettling. You might find yourself stepping into new territory, unsure of your place, but that's what makes it powerful. You're creating space for something real to emerge.
Yes, Laura, that's the kind of excitement worth listening to. Not the pressure to perform, but the permission to begin again and to enjoy the beginning. Even if it's slow, even if it's small, it still counts.
Exactly. It's the kind of excitement that quietly invites you to explore without expectation or deadlines.
It's that subtle pull when you picture doing something new or picking up something you once loved. At this stage, excitement isn't loud or showy. It's meaningful. It's energy that feels steady, not rushed.
And when that energy begins to build hope and a little excitement will open the door to curiosity. The kind that asks, what if I follow that thought? What if I tried something new?
Yes, curiosity is so underrated, especially in midlife. We often think we're supposed to have things figured out by now. But what if this chapter isn't about answers? It's about wonder, about rediscovering the questions that matter to us instead of the ones we were trained to chase.
And what I love about curiosity is that it doesn't demand outcomes. It just asks you to notice, to listen, to explore without judgment. Whether you follow that instinct or not, paying attention is a beautiful form of self-connection.
Yes, curiosity is where creativity wakes back up, where your senses stretch a little, where joy begins to trickle in, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because something inside you feels alive again. And when you follow that thread gently, it starts to weave something more substantial underneath. Confidence.
And it's the type of confidence that is rooted in something deep. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about aligning with self and the confidence that comes with knowing what feels true for you and being willing to honor that, even if it's uncomfortable, even if no one else gets it. And it will grow every time you choose yourself with intention.
Confidence doesn't have to shout. In fact, midlife is often whispers. It shows up when you stop asking for permission, you trust your intuition, even when it goes against the grain. When you walk away from something because it no longer fits, not because someone else told you to.
It's a confidence built from experience, not from having all the right answers, but from surviving, healing, and growing from realizing that you don't have to apologize for evolving.
Confidence becomes a quiet guide. It shifts you from reacting to responding, from proving to feeling rooted, from performing to living in alignment. Each time you choose to come back to yourself with honesty, that inner steadiness grows and starts to feel like home.
And this version of confidence, it's different than what we were told to strive for. It's not loud. It doesn't need validation. It's the kind that says, I am who I am. I may not have all the answers, but I trust myself to figure it out as I go.
It shows up in the smallest choices. No thank you when something doesn't feel right, and the brave yes to something, even if your voice shakes.
And it's through those moments, those honest, aligning decisions, that inner trust grows. You stop performing, you stop proving. And what begins to settle in is something many women in midlife are looking for: peace.
No, peace in this season isn't about escaping life's chaos. It's not about the bubble baths and the spa days, although, Laura, those are lovely too. No, this peace is more profound. It's the quiet internal knowing that says, I'm allowed to be here. I belong to myself. I don't need to earn rest, softness, or stillness anymore.
So many of us have spent decades in overdrive, caring for others, performing roles, saying yes when we wanted to say no. And we became so used to running, managing, and fixing that when peace finally knocks, it almost feels unfamiliar, even underdeserved.
That's so true. Peace can feel disorienting at first, but the longer you sit with it, the more it reveals what it is. It's really alignment. It's not the absence of challenge. It's your presence in your own life. It's knowing what matters and choosing it without apology.
That's right. Peace is waking up and not immediately feeling left behind. It's making decisions from a place of clarity rather than guilt. It's that deep exhale when you realize, I no longer need to hustle to be seen. I already see myself.
That's right. And from that place of grounded presence, Laura, of truly inhabiting your own life, you begin to feel something even more expansive: empowerment.
And when peace becomes part of your rhythm, empowerment follows. Not because someone handed you permission, but because you reclaimed your right to choose.
Empowerment sounds like I decide what matters to me. I shape my life around what nourishes me. I no longer shrink to keep others comfortable. And let me tell you, that kind of clarity, it's magnetic.
That's where joy begins to bloom. Unforced, unapologetic joy in the small moments. Wearing what feels good, laughing without filtering yourself, waking up and realizing you're proud of the life you're building.
And then, maybe without warning, something stirs on a quiet afternoon or in the middle of folding laundry. It's subtle, barely there, but unmistakable. You feel a shift, a sense that something in you is ready, not rushed, not frantic, but a grounded, rooted readiness to begin again.
It doesn't arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it's a quiet thought. I think I can do this differently, or a moment when the old ways no longer fit, and the idea of something new doesn't feel scary anymore. It actually feels possible.
Readiness at this stage isn't about proving anything. It's not about becoming the next best version of yourself overnight. It's a slow turning toward what feels more honest, more aligned. It's saying, I might not know what comes next, but I trust myself to move toward it anyway.
That kind of readiness opens so much. It permits you to explore a new hobby, not because you need to master it, but because you're curious. It gives you the courage to change directions, not out of fear, but from a place of growth. It gives you space to make peace with something lingering for years.
And most importantly, it allows you to move forward without abandoning yourself. No more hustling for worth. No more shrinking for safety. Readiness is the quiet yes that says, I'm here and I'm ready to try.
Exactly.
And when all of this begins to weave together, hope, excitement, curiosity, peace, empowerment, readiness, you might notice something rising within you that's been quietly waiting its turn. Trust. Trust in the process, trust in your body, trust in your timing, and maybe most powerfully, trust in the woman you are still becoming.
And this trust, it's not fragile, it's not naive, it wasn't handed to you. You earned it through every moment you showed up, through every decision to feel rather than numb, to stay rather than flee. You speak rather than silence yourself.
This trust doesn't mean you suddenly have all the answers. It means you've stopped needing certainty to feel grounded. You've stopped waiting for the world to reflect your worth back. To you, you already know. Deep down, you know.
That inner voice says, even if I don't know exactly what's next, I know who I am in it. That kind of clarity doesn't just guide you, it grounds you. It becomes your compass when the road ahead is uncertain. That knowing, it's not just comfort, it's a sign of how far you've come. It's not just healing, that's evolution.
Yes, so take a moment, a breath, not one of closure, but one of recognition, because you've shown up episode after episode, not just to listen, but to reflect, feel, and grow. You're not the same woman who started this season. You're more layered, grounded, and awake to your own life. And what deserves to be seen? That is something to honor. That is something to carry with you into whatever comes next.
We didn't call this midlife evolution by accident. We chose it because evolving isn't a single moment. It's a continual unfolding. It's about choosing to keep growing even when it's uncomfortable.
So ask yourself, what emotions are you carrying into this next chapter? Hope? Courage? Maybe a little fear mixed with excitement. Whatever it is, take a moment to write these in the final podcast resource book to help you process all these emotions in your time. These emotions are more than feelings. They're guideposts, reminders that you've done the work, that you've grown, and that you're still becoming. Your evolution doesn't end here. It deepens, it expands, and it goes with you. If this episode stirred something in you, a sense of closure, excitement, and peace, please let us know in our private Facebook group. This is a space for reflection, and your voice helps others feel less alone.
And we're not leaving you just yet. We've got a few bonus episodes coming your way in a totally new format. Susan and I will each choose a topic we're passionate about, and this time we'll take turns interviewing each other. These bonus episodes will be shared in our private Facebook community so we can keep the conversation going and hear from you too. If you haven't joined the group yet, now's the perfect time. We'd love to have you there.
So if today brought up memories, questions or new ideas, don't brush them aside. Let them breathe. You've earned this clarity. Let it shape your next steps.
Exactly. Give yourself the space to stay with what came up. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just staying curious and present is enough. That's how we began again, one honest step at a time.
This is the invitation to step into your next chapter, not with pressure, but with presence.
You are not the same person you were who started this season. There has been growth, and that's something to be proud of.
We'll see you next time for our bonus content in our Facebook community. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're not behind, you're becoming.
The journey may not be easy,
But we promise
it will be worth it. Now, here is some of the legal stuff. The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered professional health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We are not licensed mental health professionals, and the content of this podcast is not intended to replace care from a qualified mental health provider. If you are experiencing distress, facing challenges in your mental health, or require professional support, we strongly encourage you to seek help from a licensed healthcare professional. If you are in crisis and need immediate support, you can contact the Suicide Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 or texting 988. Trained crisis counselors are available 24/7 to offer free and confidential support. This podcast is designed to inspire and support women navigating midlife transitions, but your journey is unique, and professional guidance can make a significant difference.